Hello, my lovelies. Happy Wednesday. Happy scooping out. We're following up again from last week. Again, it's the first follow-up. Last week we were talking about what to do when you feel burnt out and you can't seem to focus. And the message was really quite simple, wasn't it? It was take a freaking break already. Drop the guilt. Drop the shame. Take the break when you need the break. The time that you need the break is going to shorten up. It's going to go shoo, and then you're going to be back on track, right? When you lose your motivation, you're having a hard time getting into it. Do that instead of like force yourself into productivity. Well, we got a couple of questions. One of them we're going to talk about this week. The other one we're going to talk about next week. So today, the question was, well, what do I do if the guilt doesn't go away? Right? So, and that makes perfect sense because one of the things I said was, if you're taking a break and you've got this guilt dialogue going on in your head telling you shouldn't take a break and you're wasting all this time and blah, 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 right? If that's going on in your head, it's not a real break, is it? I mean, it might be from a physical standpoint if the break is really literal in terms of like sick in bed, binge watching Netflix or something like that, right? Like that's an obvious one. But from an energetic standpoint, from a non-physical standpoint, if you're sitting there feeling badly for taking a break the entire time, by the time you're ready to you think you're ready or you should be ready or you force yourself back into productivity, mentally, psychologically, emotionally, energetically, spiritually, you didn't get a break. It was almost worse. You wore yourself out by berating yourself the entire time you were taking a break, right? Like that's not a place that's going to put your brain into any kind of creative mode, any kind of communicative mode, any kind of like buckle down, I'm excited to tackle this problem mode. That's not going to happen. You're going to still be sitting at your computer or at your notepad or at that meeting or whatever going, I really need a break, right? So the question came, what happens if I can't drop the guilt? What do I do with that if that guilt just stays with me? And it's a really valid question because it almost feels like we're sort of victim to it. Like if it's on autoplay in our head, we can't really do anything about it, right? So that's actually not right. We get to fix that. And the very thing we need to do is pay attention to it. Right? We have this idea, and there is truth to this. I'm not trying to impugn any of the wisdom that has come through any other outlets. We've heard the adages, right? Where attention goes, energy flows. If you just focus on the positive, and don't think about the negative, and there's some truth to that. But what we're not always aware of is that if we're consciously turning our thoughts to that, it means we're having to police every thought that comes through our brain, and we can't do that. Have you tried to meditate? I meditate every single day, and some days I drop right in. My mind shuts up. It's this glorious space. And other times my brain doesn't shut up, right? And I've been meditating for decades. So this isn't something that there's some magical wand that can go, this thought, don't think. In fact, the very thing you're telling yourself not to think becomes the thing you think about the most, right? Think about the last time you tried to cut sugar out of your diet. Yeah, there's the physical need and there's the withdrawal and all the things that call you back to sugar. And because you said you can't have it, it's all you can think about anyway. Right? Don't think of a 4-leaf clover. Dare you? What's the first thing you thought of? Your brain went right to a 4-leaf clover. So don't think about your guilty thoughts. Don't feel guilty. Like hell, you're not going to feel guilty. So the very first thing you need to do, and again, I'm not negating any of that other wisdom. I'm coupling it together with this idea that if we are in constant resistance to something, we're actually giving it our energy. We're actually giving it our attention. Even if our intent is to focus on it so we can refocus, right? Because really what we're saying is we're afraid of this thing, so we want to focus on this thing. And the whole underlying focus ends up being the thing we don't want. So you don't want guilt? Guess what you do? You focus on your guilt. You look at it. You talk to it. There's 2 ways to do this. One is get deep into your body. Where does guilt show up for you? Mine will show up sometimes in my throat It'll also show up in my solar plexus. Okay? Those are the two places mine show up. So then I can visualize. Now, see, now I'm talking about it, my throat's like, I can go in and I can visualize where it's showing up in my body and go in and talk to it. Hi, guilt. How you doing today? I notice you're a part of my process. I can really use a break. What can we do here? What can we work on? I'm serious. I have like these mental conversations with this stuff. And the funny thing is paying attention to it lightens. It's like this petulant child that goes, look at me, look at me, look at me. And then the moment you look at it, you go, what can I do for you, honey? They go, oh, nothing. Right? These emotions, these negative emotions, they're not negative. They have a message for you. They're trying to get your attention, which brings me to the second way to deal with this, okay? Similarly, you go in, because not everybody can visualize, but this is something everybody can do. So similarly, you turn your attention to your guilt and you begin to break it down. I call this the toddler game. Compare a lot of personal growth to child issues or children, right? Like, well, it just is. We're all growing. We're all figuring this stuff out. But I call it the toddler game because it's this series of questions. You know how a toddler will come, why do you like this? Why is that? Why? What would you do without it? Do you love it so much? Why? Why do you want it, right? It's this question after question after question that helps you get super deep into your issue. So you go, okay, I feel guilty about taking a break. Why? Why do I feel guilty about taking a break? Because I should be working. Okay. Why should you be working? Because I only have these dedicated hours to get this stuff done. And if it's not done, I'll have to do it tomorrow. Why is that a bad thing? Well, because tomorrow I've got meetings and I can't focus on it, and I promised I would have this other thing done. Does that other thing have to be done? Well, no, technically it could wait, but I like to have things done. Why? Because when I have things done, I feel like I've done my job. Now you're beginning to notice that your guilt isn't just guilt about taking a break. It's a guilt about self-worth, right? You begin to, the more whys you ask, the deeper you go into that process. Why is it important for you to understand you do your job? Because then I know I'm important. Then I know I'm needed, right? Now we're at the crux of it. The deeper you go, why is it important to be needed? The deeper you go, the closer you get to that unconscious. You might even get lucky and hit the subconscious belief that is telling you rest is not valuable. It is telling you that recharging yourself doesn't count as necessary work or as a necessary part of your journey, right? Do you understand how this works? The deeper you get to this, the closer you are to a profound understanding of a way that you are in your own way in your productivity. You can logically know that for every productivity sprint, you're going to need a break, but it's quite different when you try to give yourself permission to do it. Do you understand? Once you give yourself permission, full permission, no guilt to take that break, now you can take the freaking break. And a half hour of being not productive, it is productive. Can we call it what it is? It's a necessary part of the process. So of course it's part of your productivity. Well, of course it is. But if you have a story saying that it's not, okay, so that you could take 30 minutes of being not productive instead of half-assing your way through the entire day, making a bunch of mistakes, walking away feeling resentful, and then tomorrow your battery's not charged for work anyway, and you're still half-assing your meetings that you had to go to. Right? So the moment you can stop this story, I said 30 minutes. What if it's a half a day? What if it's a weekend? What if? Who cares? For every productivity rally you have, you are going to need a rest. You are going to need a break. And as long as you can think it without believing it, those breaks will never fuel you. Never. I don't care if you are taking a 30-minute nap in the back seat of your car during your workday, or you're taking a 3-week vacation, because I guarantee you while you're on vacation, your mind is going to be running rampant about all the work you're going to have to do, or all the opportunities you're missing while you're gone, or whatever the story is. So the two ways that you get rid of the guilt when you really, really need a break is to pay attention to it. Pay attention to it at an energetic level by going into your body. loving on that guilt, holding its hand, giving it a hug, telling it you understand its motives, that it's only trying to help. That guilt will soften and go away. If you do this work on the energetic level, it really, really, really doesn't come back. Like if you just keep at it at that energetic, you're rewiring everything in your cellular memory. You can't do that, don't want to do that, don't like to do that. You can approach it from an intellectual level. Why yourself to death? I call it the toddler game. You'll learn about it in Conscious Transitions or the Fail to Win course. Come join a course with me. Tons of tools like these. Why yourself down to the root of the problem, and now you have an insight. Now you can work on the root of that. If it's self-worth, if it's self-value, if work is only valued, or if you're only valued as long as you're working, right? That's a big one. If that's the case, you're going to be in your own way all the time, because you're going to be burning the candle at both ends constantly. It's not sustainable. So those are the two ways. Your homework, my homework, is to take the break when you need it. Notice the guilt when it comes up. Face the guilt. Don't turn away from the guilt. And the moment you have that guilt on your side, go take your break. Go do the thing you're supposed to do by listening to your stories, redefining your stories, making allies of these hidden stories, bringing them along the journey. It's all part of you. There's no part of you that's bad. Stop treating yourself like you don't deserve a break, or that any of this stuff is bad. You are lovable. You are wonderful. You're absolutely incredible. And I'm so glad you're here. Come back next Wednesday, 8:30 a.m. Mountain Time, because the second question was, okay, that's great in a short sprint, but what if I really do have to buckle down for the long term? How do I take a break then? And that's a big one. So we're going to talk about that next week. Come back, subscribe to the YouTube channel in case you missed these. Love you. Give yourselves a great big hug from me, and I'll see you next time. Bye. How long are you supposed to sit here before you close this out? I don't know. Apparently not this long. Too long.